Hello, this is Brigadier PS Gotra. Today we'll be discussing some of these things like some code names of the operations, leadership qualities of Brigadier Mohammad Usman, and the principles of war. These are the maps of Operations Kipper and Operation Kipper and Operation Satyanas. Funny names, but if you do not know about these, then you can always go wrong. This campaign was there in 1988 when I was appearing for the Part B examination. Although I had read the book, I failed to answer these questions, three questions, because I didn't remember the code names of these operations, some of the operations. If you do not know the operations, and then you cannot borrow SATA also. So I have compiled the names of some of these operations so that if you get a question indicating the name of the operation, you are able to write something relevant about that operation and get pass marks. Similarly, it used to be very fashionable to relate the campaigns to some principles of war. So I am giving you some ideas of the relevance of principles of war in the current campaign, although questions regarding surprise and deception has already been dealt in detail in a separate episode. Thirdly, I have an uncanny feeling that a question regarding Brigadier Usman, the Lion of Naushera, will appear in the exam because all the brigade commanders of the division in that particular area attend an yearly event there in honor of Brigadier Usman. Quite a few of those formation commanders make it to the higher rank, and in there is high probability that some of those chaps have made it to the rank and are setting up the paper for the Part B this year. Now these operations, Operation Vijay. Generally, we confuse it with the other Operation Vijay. Vijay. Operation Vijay was a decisive operation in 1948 aimed at recapturing Jhangar, a strategic location in the vicinity of Naushera, and it was lost to Pakistani forces earlier. But in 1948, an operation was launched by 50 Para Brigade under Brigadier Usman, and it was recaptured in March 1948. Operation Bison. Operation Bison was the recapture of Zojila Pass and the surrounding heights. Operation Satyanash was an operation that was launched to by 2 Jat under 50 Para Brigade, and 2 Jat carried out operations to mop up the enemy concentration around Bedipatan. Another force called Cheetah Force, led by 7 Cavalry and 1-7 Rajput on the vehicles, this was called the Cheetah Force, a mobile force, was used to strike at the enemy base at Asar and Kadala near Bimber. Operation Kippa. Operation Kippa, the aim of the operation, which was named after the Western Command Army Commander, General K.M. Karyappa, was to clear the ridge 9 kilometers northeast of Naushera. The ridge overlooked the Naushera Tavi Valley. The objective was Kot, a place on the ridge, and it was carried out in January 1948. Operation Jack. Generally, we all know about it, but generally we don't realize what is Operation Jack. This was the impromptu airlift of troops into Srinagar in October 1947, which saved the Kashmir Valley. The rescue mission was codenamed as Operation Jack. Operation Airlift. Again, the same thing. Operation Airlift of 1947 was a critical military operation conducted by India to defend Jammu and Kashmir after the Pakistani raiders came into invade the Srinagar area. Operation Gulmarg. Operation Gulbarg was the Pakistani operation against the Kashmir, in which they sent the raiders across. That was earlier it was to be launched in August, but later it was launched on 22nd October, in which they initially captured the Muzaffarabad garrison. Operation Ranjit. 19th Brigade launched Operation Ranjit to capture Chingas and Rajouri on 8th April 1948. Operation Birbal. Operation Birbal was conducted on 2nd May. One Kumaon carried out Operation Birbal and captured Thana Mandi. Operation Erase. Operation Erase was launched on 26 June 1948 for the recapture of Gurez. Once again, Operation Erase was launched on 26 June 1948 for the recapture of Gurez. Operation Sparrow, an ingenious plan to push tanks across near the Zojila Pass at about 11,500 feet of height. It was made the in this the tanks of 3 squadron 7 cavalry were taken to that area. The logistics and all involved in that was called Operation Sparrow. It was named so because Colonel Rajinder Singh was commanding the 7 cavalry, and his nickname was Sparrow. Operation Easy was a military operation conducted by the Indian Army during 1947 operation, primarily aimed at securing the strategic town of Kargil and linking up with the forces in Leh and Zanskar. So now you have a fair understanding of what all these operations were. Next question is, describe Brigadier Muhammad Usman, the Lion of Naushera, as the leader. Brigadier Muhammad Usman, commander of 50 Para Brigade, was an iconic and exemplary military leader in the history of Indian Army. Born on July 15, 1912 in Bibipur, Uttar Pradesh, Usman joined Indian Military Academy at Dehradun and was commissioned into British Indian Army in March 1934. Known for his exceptional bravery, leadership, and commitment to duty, he became a national hero for his role during the Indo-Pakistan War, especially in the defense of Naushera. Some of his leadership qualities were bravery and courage. Brigadier Usman is often remembered for his fearless nature in battle. Despite the dangerous and challenging conditions, his leadership in the defense of Naushera in Jammu and Kashmir, where his forces successfully held off a much larger Pakistani tribal force, is a testament to his courage. He was called Lion of Naushera for this defense. Strategic mind. Brigadier Usman was not only courageous but also highly skilled strategist. His ability to hold the key position of Naushera and Jhangar was due to his sharp military acumen. Despite limited resources and tough terrain, he organized his force effectively and used the element of surprise and defensive tactics to outmaneuver the enemy. Sense of duty. His dedication to the nation was remarkable. Usman could have chosen to join the Pakistani army after the partition of India, given that he was a Muslim. However, his loyalty to India and sense of duty kept him with Indian Army. This decision highlighted his strong character and commitment to the ideals of the duty over personal and religious considerations. Leadership by example. Brigadier Usman led from front, often putting himself in the harm's way. His personal courage boosted the morale of his soldiers, and they deeply respected him. His ability to inspire trust, confidence in his men made him a highly effective leader on the battlefield. Compassion and integrity. Known for his humility and care for his troops, Usman earned the respect of his superiors and subordinates. He showed genuine concern for the welfare of the soldiers and was highly approachable, which endeared him to his men. Martyrdom. Brigadier Usman was martyred on July 3rd, 1948, during the defense of Jhangar. His death was a great loss to the Indian Army, but his legacy as a courageous and selfless leader lives on. He was posthumously awarded the Mahavir Chakra, India's second highest military decoration for gallantry. In summary, Brigadier Usman was a leader who embodied courage, dedication, and strategic brilliance. His legacy serves as a model for the military leaders. Principles of war. The principles of war are timeless concepts that guide military operations, ensuring strategic success. In the context of 1947-48 operations, these principles were evident in several key operations and decisions. Some of these are discussed in the following slides. Selection and maintenance of aim. When the aim was to secure Jammu and Kashmir after its accession to India, India ensured that the Srinagar airfield was secured in October 1947 by flying in the troops, and also the raiders are repelled back by moving towards Baramulla and Uri. This was vital for maintaining the control of the region. Offensive action. India's decision to airlift troops to Srinagar in Operation or airlift on 27th October 1947 is a clear demonstration of offensive action. The Indian Army, with this bold move, preempted the fall of Srinagar to the advancing tribal force. The swift airlifting of troops gave India an immediate advantage. The Battle of Shelatang, in this also, troops were withdrawn from Patan, luring the tribals to come towards Shelatang, where they got into a trap and they were hit from the two different sides, from the rear and the left flank. After the rout at Shelatang, the offensive action of the Indian Army made it march towards Baramulla, and within about 24 hours, they were able to take the Baramulla town. Again, the march continued towards the Uri, and the town of Uri was also taken. The offensive continued towards the Muzaffarabad area. However, it petered down because of the lack of troops and the resources. Capture of Naushera or Rajouri link up with Punch were also demonstrations of the offensive action of the Indian Army. Concentration of force. Indian forces concentrated their strength in defending key areas such as Baramulla and Uri. The defense of these areas prevented the Pakistani backed tribal forces from advancing further into the valley, securing the core of Jammu and Kashmir. The successful defense of Shelatang in November 1947 was also a vital example of concentrating forces to halt the enemy offensive. Economy of effort. India used its limited resources efficiently in the face of Pakistan based irregular forces. Indian forces were carefully deployed in key locations like the Jammu and Kashmir Road airfield and the high strategic value areas like Punch and Leh to maximize their potential and the operational effectiveness. Security. Securing key strategic locations such as Srinagar airfield was critical to India's defense strategy. If this airfield had been lost, Indian forces would not have been able to land and reinforce or resupply. Securing Baramulla was also essential so that the lines of communications are open. Picketing of Uri was important so that the border town doesn't fall into the enemy hands. securing of Zojila was important so that the line of communication to Ladakh remains open. Flexibility. Indian forces deployed flexibility by shifting from defensive to offensive operations when needed. The recapture of Zojila in November 1948 by Indian forces employing tanks at high altitude was notable example of adapting to terrain and the enemy actions. Cooperation. Between the Indian Army and the Air Force was critical. For instance, the successful airlifting of troops and supplying of Srinagar in the operational airlift would not have been possible without the seamless coordination between the Indian Air Force and the Army. Then the in the this was also demonstrated during the airdrop of supplies in Punch and Leh. This was also seen in the offensives against the enemy in the well coordinated attacks using infantry, RT, and the armor. Morale. The morale of Indian troops was boosted by the success of early operations like the defense of Badgam on 3rd November 1947, where Major Somnath Sharma and his men fought valiantly against overwhelming odds to defend the Srinagar airfield. This sacrifice became a symbol of bravery and dedication, boosting morale in subsequent operations. Also, the harsh weather, in spite of the harsh weather in the Kashmir Valley and also in the Jammu region, the Jawans or the soldiers of the Indian Army fought well because of the high morale. Now, some questions in the on time work. After the enemy attack on Badgam on 3rd November 1947, it was decided to lure the raiders into concentrating so that the engage so that engaging them becomes easy. What was the bait used for this and what redeployment was effected to make this bait work? A hint is troops from Patan was withdrawn so that the tribals start following them towards Srinagar. And the exact thing how the armored corps went and got onto the rear flank of the enemy, how the one Kumo came on the left flank of the enemy, all be worked out by you. Enumerate the salient aspects of the operation that resulted in the loss and subsequent recapture of Jangar. Now, this aspect has not dealt by me very much detail. So I am giving the points. You can work on it, go through these points, and remember, recapture of Jangar was called Operation Vijay. I have finished. Leave your comments if you want me to make a capsule on the law, military law, for the next year's Part B or Part D examination. Thank you.